Blue skies smiling at me.
What's
Nothing
up,
but
fight
blue
fans from
skies.
all around the world? You see, Eddie is happy to be back in the war room today. Thank you guys for tuning in. I am your fight goddess, Chris Baldwin, and I'm here with my fight family, Mr. Eddie Goldman, who is just singing away for us today. We call him the conscious of combat sports, and my fight sister right here, boxing historian, women's boxing historian, Melissa Smith. You guys, welcome back into the war room. We've got a lot to cover today. We are going to kick it off to you, to Melissa, to tell us what is going on in women's boxing. We've got some
Well,
historic shit going on. 3 minute rounds. Say what?
3 minute rounds, 12 by 3. Not that this is the first 12 by 3. Just to encapsulate it, Amanda Serrano will be fighting a WBO mandatory fight against Daniela Ramos on October 27th
Amazing.
at the Caribe Royal Resort in Orlando, Florida. What makes this historic is, number one, it will be fought as 12 3-minute rounds. So, if you see the ads for it, it's like, oh, women's championship, women is X'd out. It just says championship boxing, because that's what it's all about. What's extraordinary is that the WBA, the IBF, and the WBO have all agreed to allow a 12 by 3 fight. Not only that, but the Florida Athletic Commission has also agreed to allow a 12 by 3 round fight.
Nice.
So everything's completely awesome and ready to go. That fight will be on October 27th. It'll be broadcast on DAZN. It is a really, really huge, big deal. Now, WBC, as you know, or may not remember, Amanda Serrano won the undisputed status as a featherweight fighter in an extraordinary showdown on February 2nd of this year at Madison Square Garden's Little Theater against Erica Cruz. Those two women threw almost 1,000 punches apiece in 20 minutes, okay? In a 10 by 2. Now that gave her the undisputed. Then in July, she fought, Amanda Serrano defended that title against Heather Hardy in a 10 by 2 absolute box fest that just never stopped. Again, these two women just went at it for 10 rounds. Heather Hardy has a chin of steel.
She sure does. Good Lord.
She has a chin of steel. I think we've talked about her in the past and what that all meant. So, and now after that, Serrano announced, hey, I'm going to do my mandatory, doing it 12 by 3. I'm doing it my way. And WBC, which has her 4th belt, has opted not to allow 12 by 3. That has been the stance of WBC on the record for over 10 years. They consider it a health and safety matter. They believe that there is enough research to support their contention that women are more susceptible to concussions, and therefore they want to mitigate the risk by limiting the number of rounds. I have to say, in doing research for my book, it is a very unbaked science. So there are some studies for women's sport, team sports, that show that women may be more susceptible. But there's the question of, is it just because they are more ready to report it, or do they actually have more? So
but what studies are they using to even come to that conclusion?
Well,
have they posted the studies?
No, WBC has not posted the studies, other than at certain of their at their conventions, have had doctors, mostly from UCLA, come out and talk about concussion risk, but the studies are not available on their website. And if one does a search through Google Scholar or the NIH site, one finds studies on concussions, but very, 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 very limited set on women in combat sports, never mind boxing.
Right.
So again, it's part of what this controversy is all about. And WBC has said, nope, we're not going to support that. And since Amanda is still fighting for unification. She's not giving up her WBC belt. As she has stated, I will fight a mandatory for my WBC, and I'll do it at 10-2 if that's what they need.
Right.
But this fight is 12-3 with 3 out of the 4 sanctioning belts. So, and it is historic because, yes, we have had 12-3 fights in the past, starting in the 80s. We had those kinds of fights. Most famously, Layla Lamont Carter fought smaller sanctioning belts. She had a series of 3 fights in Las Vegas, 12-3 for smaller sanctioning bouts in 2007. And then we leap forward to 2 years ago, 2021, when Sinisa Estrada and Marlon Esparza fought 10-3 for the WBA title in Las Vegas. And Sinisa Estrada has attempted to continue that effort of either 12-3 or 10-3, but has not been able to find anyone in her defenses to agree to that fight. So not only is there the issue of the sanctioning bodies agreeing to it and the athletic division, the athletic commissions agreeing to it in the various boxing jurisdictions, but the other fighter has to agree as well. And that is not always the case. And some of that rationale is, hey, I've been fighting 10-2. That's how I know how to fight. Or, hey, you're still not paying me enough for that extra 16 minutes. But for Serrano, this is all about her now. She's like, hey, I have done everything I wanted to do in this sport. I am also now a millionaire, finally. It has been a long, 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 long road. And we all know about her $5,000 championship fights. Well, now she's in the chips, and she is here to also make a statement about what boxing is, what women can achieve, and breaking through those barriers. So it is a really huge, big deal. And I applaud her. I applaud, her Most Valuable Promotions for the work and effort they put into working with these sanctioning bodies and with Florida Athletic Commission to get it done, to get it over the line, to get everybody to agree. Daniela Ramos for agreeing and saying, yep, I'm good to go for my mandatory belt to fight at that time. So anyway, that's probably the biggest news. We also have the Women's Boxing Hall of Fame.
I want to comment on the 3-minute rounds. A couple of things. There's a long history of completely unscientific based decisions being made about women in boxing and combat sports and sports in general that go back. I mean, the history probably better than most people, Melissa, but how women had to go to court to be allowed to box, period. They were barred from boxing. They were also barred from other sports like wrestling. People had to go to court and fight under the anti-discrimination laws to be allowed to compete in combat sports. That took a long time. And so these same institutions that barred women completely came up with all these different regulations on some vague, unavailable studies that today it sounds like this is what the WBC is doing. I don't see the scientific basis. And in the sports world, there's just been a long history of that, both for women and also coming up with regulations for transgender fighters with no scientific basis, just making these decisions, and they'll have doctors and scientists do it. And there's no science, there's no research behind any of this. I wonder how, if we're going to start to move to seeing this happen more than in just the WBO and in the Florida Commission, which among commissions can be kind of an outlier. If it starts to become more common, I wonder how that's going to affect the pace and the technique and the defense and everything in women's boxing, because with the 2 minute rounds and the 10 round limit, it seems that there's less time than in men's boxing to really work on the jab, feel people out, and all of that. I wonder if you have an idea how this might change the trajectory of the fights.
I do, in the sense that, the women are contending with this already, because in the amateurs, where a lot of women who are boxing today have had the ability to box in the amateurs as part of their journey in boxing. And since 2017, women have boxed 3-minute rounds in the amateurs. So they already have that exposure if they're coming through that system. Olympic boxing, 3 is same for men and women, 3x3. So the issue of pacing and ring strategy is already confronted when these elite women come into the pros and have to step down from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. And you're right, it's a much more compact kind of fight that they have to fight. They have to go in 2 minutes, and they go, end to end, because there is no other opportunity to be able to substantially win the round. Now, there has also been talk that, well, you don't get the knockouts if you don't have 3 minutes. Although, Amanda Serrano, who has 30 knockouts, would disagree. But there are issues with what that will do to change the fight. But if you look at, for instance, the Sinisa Estrada, Marlon Esparza 10x3, it didn't affect how they boxed. It just gave them the extra minute. They were still fast, action-oriented. There was none of this real sort of something you see on the men's side, which is a lot of real tactical and technical boxing, where they kind of move and posture before and kind of snake around the ring. In the Estrada Esparza fight, they just went at it for that extra minute for 10 rounds. So it'll be interesting to see what that's going to look like. It's a good question.
And don't women typically train in the gym? Because
Yes,
all the women
absolutely.
that I've seen training in the gym train.
Everybody trains 3 minutes.
Everybody trains 3 minute rounds.
And typically, and I write this in the book, a typical woman who's training for a championship bout, she will spar 3 different partners 4 rounds apiece for 3 minutes. So she's already training at 12-3 partners cycling in. To get, just the same way men train. So yes, absolutely. And women typically, for instance, Heather Hardy, in preparing for her 10x2 with Serrano, boxed 12x3 in preparation, and most of her, or many of her sparring partners, were southpaw men. Because as she said, I need them to beat the shit out of me because Amanda hits hard, so I need to be able to deal with getting hit hard.
You got to learn how to take
and being able to go.
Right.
So that was her training tactically. So yes, women are used, and to Eddie's other point, when women first started getting quote unquote permission to box, which was basically taking them to court in the 70s, really beginning in the 70s, with the changes in the federal laws for equal employment, gave women the opportunity to do that, beginning in professional wrestling in around 1970 in New York State, as an example. The state commissions came up with rules. For instance, in Pennsylvania, the first year or two, women had to wear aluminum bras. I mean, it was psycho.
Aluminum
bras.
What?
Yeah, Marion, Lady Tiger Tremier tells hysterical stories about that. And but there were this again to Eddie's point, with no science. It was like, oh, if you get hit in the breast, you'll get breast cancer. If you get hit in the abdomen, you never have children. I mean, it was just or you'll get cancer. You're going to get breast cancer if you get hit in the boobs. So it was really crazy stuff. And it is why professional boxing, started to come into the fore in the mid 70s as legal pretty much across the United States. By 1980, it was pretty much legal in all the jurisdictions. But amateurs were not allowed until the mid 1990s, when Dallas Malloy, a young girl out in the Northwest, in Seattle, I think, somewhere out there, sued. And finally, amateur boxing became legal. Again, all of this because of spurious science. And when it comes to the different boxing commissions, there are already 3 on record, and now 4 of allowing, or actually 5, 3-minute rounds. You've got California, Nevada, New York State, New Jersey a few years ago, and now Florida. And there's no limit. All you have to do is, as with any fight card, you have to present it to the state commission for authority, and they will click the box as long as both boxers agree. And in the case of a sanctioning body, the sanctioning body agrees. And that's all you need.
And there we have it. That's Amanda leaving her legacy.
Amanda definitely leaving her legacy.
I love it.
I just want to bring up 2 more quick things. Number one, the International Women's Boxing Hall of Fame 10th anniversary will be on October 6th and 7th this year.
Right on.
We're celebrating 2 classes, the class of 23 and the class of 24. Mayor Carolyn Goodman of Las Vegas has already issued a proclamation claiming that October 7th is Women's Boxing Day. That's the 2nd time in Las Vegas that's happened. It will be a very exciting show, and we will have a terrific opportunity to have a lot of meet and greet. So anybody that can be in Las Vegas in those days, you can get on the Women's Boxing Hall of Fame website to get tickets, and for the Friday event, which is a lot of meet and greet, there's really no need for tickets for that. So that's just kind of an open thing. And the other thing is there's another big fight coming up this weekend. Jessica McCaskill will be fighting Sandy Ryan, who's a British fighter. McCaskill lost her fight against Chantel Cameron last year on November 5th. It also knocked her out of Undisputed because she lost her WB, one of her IBF title for welter. But this fight will be for the WBA, a unification for WBA, WBC, and WBO, as well as the IBO. It'll be at welterweight, 10x2, also on DAZN. In the United States, as I said, McCaskill hasn't fought since November. Sandy Ryan, this is a huge step up. She's only 6-1 coming into this bout, and has never fought this level of competition. So we'll see how she's able to do on the step up.
So she was still allowed to fight after talking that shit about Eddie Hearn.
I guess.
After that, Alicia Baumgartner.
Yeah, well, that's another interesting thing. Nothing. We have crickets on the Alicia Baumgartner story.
Nothing.
And I got to tell you, we got crickets on Hannah Gabriel. And Hannah Gabriel,
she popped positive too. I missed that story.
She was positive in May, and Clarissa Shields had another fighter. She had to be dropped from that. She still has her title. So
what is going on?
I don't know what this is all about. Like
the Michigan Commission.
Yeah, exactly. Michigan Commission.
They're going to be the ones that have to hold a hearing about it, and they have a notoriously just bad record in general. One of the poorer commissions in the United States, and
yeah,
North
but meanwhile,
America.
WBC, both of those fights was WBC, and both of those fights. I mean, it certainly Hannah Gabriel. That was the WBC test. That was a VADA test through the WBC clean boxing program. So, you're right. It's Michigan. The commission there has done crickets. but the sanctioning bodies haven't said anything either. And I guess they're waiting on the Michigan Commission. But Hannah
Yeah.
Gabriels is still sitting there with her 2 belts from 2 different sanctioning
Wait,
organizations.
so does that mean they were suspended for a certain
No.
amount of time? They didn't get
No.
suspended at all?
Neither had nothing.
What?
Zero. Crickets.
There has to be a hearing to determine
That is some
what's
bullshit.
going to happen with that. They didn't even issue a preliminary suspension.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Crickets. All we know is that Hannah Gabriels had a positive A test. We know she was on, I'm sorry, Alicia Baumgartner had a positive A test that was announced. She was on, she did some tweeting about, oh, my B test says something, but she didn't say what it said. Nothing ever came out, and crickets from the Michigan
Guilty.
Commission. So,
Yeah.
Meanwhile, she's sitting there undisputed with all the belts.
Right. And now you can't fight, though. I mean, I just don't see her coming back any less than a year. They're going to at least suspend her for at least 6 months.
Well, but right now she's sitting pretty. Nothing's happening.
yeah,
She
but
can
you're
go
not
schedule
fighting.
a fight.
She's not fighting.
Yeah, it was 2 months. She fought at the end of July.
Right. So now she can skate for a few months to see how this pans out. But she should be suspended. And
Yeah,
especially
meanwhile,
if that
she
B
was-
sample came back the same. Then
Well,
both
we,
of
we
them
don't know. We know nothing, and Michigan has done nothing in terms of in any kind of public declaration of either positive test. And one of them is from May,
Right.
because that was before the fight even happened. And that's why Clarissa Shields ended up changing out her dance partner.
Right. Well, look, Eddie, let's talk about our favorite division in boxing, which is the heavyweight baby division. They are just all, I don't know what dysfunctional shit is going on.
Well, the main thing people are talking about is the clown fight that's coming up at the end of October, and which is being facilitated by Saudi Arabia again, with Tyson Fury, and to remind people, undefeated WBC heavyweight champion, regarded by virtually everyone in boxing as the best heavyweight fighter on the planet. And who will his opponent be for what it looks like his only fight in 2023? A guy whose boxing record is very easy to remember. It's 0 wins, 0 losses, 0 draws, 0 fights, nada. Francis Ngannou, a former UFC champion. He had 2 fights where he had that belt, one where he won it and the other where he defended it. Then he left that promotion smartly, because a lot of people say UFC really stands for you fight cheap, because of the way they exploit their fighters. But he's wants to go into boxing. He's a boxing fan. He thinks Mike Tyson is the greatest fighter ever, which shows you that he doesn't know shit about boxing. And he's being put in this fight with no boxing experience against the top heavyweight in the world. And this is an absurd clown fight. So Fury is fighting this guy instead of fighting a unification fight with Usyk, instead of fighting the former unified champion Anthony Joshua, and that would be a huge fight of the 2 British heavyweights. Instead of fighting, and you could list a half dozen other fighters that he might fight, Frank Sanchez, the Cuban fighter, undefeated, that nobody seems to want to fight, or setting up with the winner of the upcoming, which I'll talk about in a moment, a Zhang Zhilei, Joe Joyce fight, or even fighting, you could name a whole bunch of other fighters in the top 10 or top 15. He's not fighting a professional boxer. Nobody with professional boxing experience. His so-called crossover fight is a joke, because it's under what's been called professional boxing rules. And there's no such thing as unified professional boxing rules across the board. So this is what Saudi Arabia, through the General Entertainment Authority, and another one of these guys that's an advisor to the royal court, this is what they're spending who knows how many tens of millions of dollars on. For Ngannou, it's said that he's going to make more money in this one fight than he has in his whole 20-fight MMA career, including 14 fights in the UFC, which shows you again how they exploit their fighters. But for boxing, this is a joke. This is absurd. This is not a fight that anybody wants to see. This is a fight that is being really showcased in Saudi Arabia as on the opening day of their big Riyadh season event, which is a months-long celebration of entertainment, cultural, sports events to kick off, bringing in what's supposed to be tens of millions of people. Maybe, I don't know if they're going to get that many, but they've gotten millions of people coming to Saudi Arabia from around the world for Riyadh season. And what's the kickoff event? You're going to have Tyson Fury against Francis Ngannou, while the heavyweight division rots. And this is just a joke. It's a scam. It's a money grab. And it again shows how the influence of Saudi Arabia in boxing is bad. It's driving it more to these spectacles rather than having it being run as a sport. So this is the other big fight that Saudi Arabia had early this year. Now, this was done by Skill Challenge Entertainment that apparently is not involved in this fight, and Prince Khalid. So it looks like there's a little bit of rivalry among different factions and the royal family, and who's getting the access to the huge amount of money. Was Jake Paul against Tommy Fury. This is a big pay-per-view. And this is the first time that this guy, Jake Paul, fought a professional boxer, even though he'd had a few fights before against former wrestlers and MMA guys. And of course, it was the first time that he lost, even though the scoring was much closer than the fight warranted. Tommy Fury, by all definitions, he is a professional fighter, but he's a novice. He's not a top-ranked fighter, unlike his half-brother Tyson Fury. His big win, he defeated Hasim Rahman Jr., who is nowhere near as good a fighter as his dad, former heavyweight champion of the world 2 times. Hasim Rahman was. And he's still learning. He's probably never going to hold a major title, but he is a pro boxer, and he completely had his way with Jake Paul. And this spectacle was also put on by in Saudi Arabia. So just judging these main events, although they did have some real regular fights on the undercard, it was the main events that sold these fights. Saudi Arabia's influence in boxing is to drag it down further into the mud. And it has to do also with the regulation. They're not the only ones to do this, but how can you approve a fight between the best heavyweight in the world, Tyson Fury, against a guy who's never had a professional boxing match in his life? It's an absolute joke. Any commission that would approve this is completely negligent and just in the palm of the promoters. But when the money behind it is coming from the monarchy in Saudi Arabia, they do whatever the hell that these people want. So that's coming up on October 28th. However, believe it or not, and this is going to be to a degree overlooked by a lot of people, for the first time in 2023, there will be a fight between 2 heavyweights who are at the same time ranked in the top 10 against each other, two professional boxers and heavyweights. That's this coming Saturday, September 23rd, the rematch between Zhang Zhilei of China, who trains in New Jersey, and Joe Joyce of the UK, who trains in Nevada with Ismail Salas. And their first fight took place early this year in April. Zhang was not ranked in the top 10 by the various more or less independent ranking lists that came out. Joe Joyce was and was a big favorite. But if you saw that fight from the opening round, Zhang Zhilei dominated that fight. He's a southpaw. He was landing jabs. He busted up Joe Joyce's right eye, and Joyce just looked lethargic and slow movement pretty much throughout the whole fight. And Zhang is not exactly a fast fighter either, but he was dominating the fight, and he won by a TKO in the 6th round when the referee had to stop the fight due to Joyce's injured right eye. And it was a big upset. It was even though it was a slow-paced fight, there's a lot of drama. It was an exciting fight to watch. So Joyce had a rematch clause. He exercised that clause, and they'll be fighting again in London, in Wembley Arena, this Saturday, and that'll be on the TKO Sports, which used to be BT Sport, and it's going to be on ESPN Plus in the United States. But there are a number of questions that I'm raising into this in terms of this rematch, and I think you're going to have to watch this fight very, very carefully to see if there's some kind of robbery or trickeration going on in this fight. Both guys are promoted by Frank Warren's Queensberry. However, Warren has openly said Joyce is the main guy. Joyce is the guy that they want to win. And the scoring, even though Zhang dominated that first fight, the scoring in the first fight was dodgy. Now, if this fight goes the distance, what's going to happen with the scoring if it's anywhere halfway close? Or would there be an opportunity for one of these premature stoppages if Zhang gets hurt and it's a gift decision for Joe Joyce? And they believe that Joyce is the more marketable guy, even though he turns 38 this week. He, as I said, from the UK. Zhang is 40. He only speaks a little bit of English, and he's from China, although he trains with, as I said, Sean George in New Jersey. Presumably, in the West, Joe Joyce is more marketable than Zhang. So we'll see if there's any kind of trickeration that goes on. This fight is for, and this is where it gets silly season, the interim WBO heavyweight belt, which makes no sense since the full WBO belt is held by Alexander Usyk. So why do you need an interim belt? He just fought at the end of August against Daniel Dubois. But the winner will become the mandatory eventually for Usyk or whoever holds the WBO belt at the time when they fight, presumably next year in 2024. Usyk is likely going to fight Hrgović in an IBF mandatory. So what you could have is the Usyk-Hrgović winner facing the Zhang Joyce 2 winner next year. And I expect that Usyk is gonna be able to beat both guys. What I think is going to be key for the Zhang rematch against Joyce is who lands first, because in the last two big fights, from the very first round, Zhang has really come out firing. He knocked down Hrgović in their fight. this is a fight that the decision went to Hrgovic, but almost everyone who watched it felt that Zhang should have won. And of course, he came out firing in the first round against Joyce. So we're gonna see what happens with them. And the fight with, by the way, with Zhang and Hrgovic was held in Saudi Arabia, which again had all of the very suspect scoring. Now, again, we've seen suspect scoring going on everywhere, but again, it shows that the governance in Saudi Arabia is taking a step back. It's even worse than it is in the U.S. and the U.K. and Europe and Japan and a number of other places that hold boxing around the world. But it is an interesting rematch, and different people have made reasonable cases that Zhang is going to win again and Joyce is going to come back, and it's a proper heavyweight fight, as the British might say. So we got this going on, but at the same time, we still want to see Tyson Fury against Alexander Usyk, and even Bob Arum is saying that has to happen, but Fury is still running his mouth. He wants to fight another MMA guy, maybe an MMA fight, all kinds of nonsense. And they basically want to price out Usyk, just underpay him to drive him away from fighting. And this has gotten noticed all around the world. People like Ricky Hatton saying boxing is becoming a circus. He can't watch it. He has trouble watching it. Ricky Hatton saying this.
Right.
I wrote about the Economist magazine, which aims at more about news and business affairs, aims at CEOs and world leaders, had an editorial about this. And they said it's even better to watch these guys who are not skilled really at all, the Jake Pauls and these guys, because these guys at least are fighting on a regular basis. Whereas there are no negotiations for Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. And it's just killing what used to be the glamour division of boxing, and boxing loses one TV outlet after another. And who knows what's going to happen next year? Is ESPN going to keep showing Top Rank, or are they just going to push everything to the ESPN Plus app? Is the Paramount's Showtime going to continue to pay for fights that few people see on Showtime, and maybe just have a few big name pay-per-views? It's just it's all heading downhill, and the whole structure of boxing, professional boxing, is collapsing because of it. But at least we got this fight this Saturday, which is a worthy fight. So we'll see.
We do,
goes.
but there's also, still a lot of boxing going on at the club levels. If you look at the number of fight cards in the United States on this Saturday night, it's actually kind of surprising how many there are. They're just not being televised on a national basis, except for a couple of cards. The rest, though, are still have, healthy cards, 10, 12 bouts, 7 bouts, 8 bouts. And so the boxing is alive and well. It's just not anything that's on our radar because we just don't see it. And then, we had some good boxing last night that was shown on DAZN out of on Golden Boy. We had some good boxing. So it's around, and certainly in the UK, every Saturday and Sunday, they also have a lot of big cards. They're just not really being seen. But it doesn't mean that boxing isn't happening. I just want to also add in a couple of things, on this this Tyson Fury and Ngannou fight. Maurizio Suleiman from WBC opined, and I quote, "I love the event. Those crossover events are giving the sport respect and doing it within the rules of boxing. Conor McGregor against Floyd Mayweather was a huge event, and so this will be. We are fine, respectful, and supporting our champion." What?
He gets his sanctioning fees.
He gets his fees. He gets to be, continue to have his hand out in Saudi Arabia. And you got Frank Warren, who's the same promoter on this. He's promoting Tyson Fury. So
That's
he's got
crazy.
all three of these heavyweights.
Yeah. What are
So-
what do they charge for a sanctioning fee? What do they get? What's the
Thousands.
WCB?
3%.
Thousands.
3% of the purse?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Plus, you got to pay all this other stuff. And speaking of interim, there was an interim fight on Friday night for women. Sky Nicholson got a WBC interim belt at Bantam.
They just
I'm sorry,
and
at
a
Feather.
belt
It's
for
like
you, and a
at
belt for
Feather.
you, and a
You've
belt
got
for
an
you.
undisputed champion at Feather.
And
So they're
you get a
trying,
belt.
she's trying to like set up having a fight against Amanda Serrano. Are you kidding me? Serrano will wipe the floor with her, but okay.
And you get a belt. And you get a belt. And you get a belt.
So yeah,
That's
come
crazy.
up with the scratch and
Right. They'll make up a belt for you.
and that's Matchroom, and they're promoting. Eddie Hearn is promoting the crap out of Sky Nicholson. So yeah, they're going to pay that to give her the interim. So now she can have the green belt and have that strap, and she hopes become the mandatory for Serrano at WBC on featherweight. But I got to tell you, Serrano is like, I'm in my own world here. She's like, I'm going to do my 12-3, and then I'm going to do my MMA debut with PFL for millions.
I love that. I love it.
So we'll see.
I'm not mad at that.
Let me just
Make
give
that
an
money,
example.
Serrano.
Let me give an example of the inactivity in the heavyweight division. I'm looking at the top ratings from Ring Magazine, and I don't do it to say that I agree with everything on there. I'm just using it as an example because they crown a champion, which is absurd, but their champion is Usyk. He did fight at the end of August against the WAAR, but he has no fights upcoming. Tyson Fury has the Ngannou fight. Next is Deontay Wilder, no fight planned. After that, Anthony Joshua, no fight planned. Then Zhang Zhilei, we just talked about. Then Andy Ruiz Jr., no fight planned. Then Joe Joyce, we talked about. Then Luis Ortiz, no fight planned. Then Joseph Parker, no fight planned. And Philip Ergovich, no fight planned. And then absurdly, they have at number 10, Jared Anderson, who presumably will fight again soon. But as far as I know, no fight planned. And I would put Frank Sanchez ahead of a number of these guys on the list. No fight planned. This is your top 10. These are your top heavyweights in the world.
Lazy or just horrible business. I just say it's just ridiculous. They should be fighting each other. Right?
Yeah. They're so
Yes, they
worried
should,
about
which the women are doing, but not the
they're
men.
so worried and they're so worried about this phony undefeated record stuff.
Right.
It doesn't matter when you lose to somebody that's top level. You want to look at the legends: Jack Dempsey, Jack Johnson, Joe Louis, Sugar Ray Robinson, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, on and on and on. All these fighters lost at some point in their career, and they're viewed as icons, as legends. So to protect these fighters by not fighting top-level fighters or only fighting tomato cans of planned mismatches is utterly absurd. Even in MMA, the undefeated record doesn't mean anything. Nobody cares about protecting it. So, yet in boxing, this becomes a cultural thing, particularly since Floyd Mayweather made this such a thing. And before that, Rocky Marciano. It's not real if you don't fight everybody when they're in their prime. So
Agreed.
it just kills the sport.
Absolutely agreed. Look at Serrano, right? She's had 2 losses on her record. She's 45-2-1. Her 2 losses are Katie Taylor and Frida Wahlberg much earlier in her career. Those losses are fine.
Right.
Those are honorable losses for people. In the Frida Wahlberg fight, that was in 2012, fighting for a world WBC super feather title. and a very close on the cards in Sweden. So, she, the girl she fought had the home advantage.
Right.
So not a dishonorable loss at all. And losing against Tanya Taylor was a badge of honor.
Well,
So
when I was first got into the boxing business, like back in 2010, Michael King, who started the All American Heavyweights over in Carson Rock Gym, Henry Tillman, and I can't remember the other coach's name. Well, Henry Tillman was a coach for these guys. And I asked him, like, because it blew my mind that, because I know MMA fighters, they fight each other and they lose and it's not a big deal. But I was like, dude, why? If you look at BoxRec, for all the champions, they all have these records, which I call like they're padded. It's like, you fought a dude that was 0-26. I mean, how are you saying that? What's the difference? I mean, why not match these guys up? And he was like, look, boxing is a business. You get investors and I kind of understood that, but still now we see in the long term how that attitude of keeping a zero, like trying to keep your fighter at zero, what it has done to the organization and the sport of boxing. And I think fighters should do away with that mindset of, oh, I need to be undefeated. No, the fuck you don't. Get your ass out there and fight people that are on your level, so you know if you got the skills or not to just keep it going.
Yeah. So, and to your point, you have somebody who goes through tomato cans the first 12 fights, then they have their 13th and they don't know what to do. They've hardly fought any rounds.
Right.
And it's because, and we're also KO happy, it's like, oh, knockout.
Right.
But, well, the dirty little secret of getting a concussion, but knockout. It's just, the whole mindset is a little bit.
Yeah, they need to change that mindset, and until a promoter comes out there and they really coach their fighters that, look, we're gonna put you in the ring and test you. No more of the 0-26. You're not stepping in the ring with somebody 0-26. That is crazy to me. You had 26 losses, no wins.
And these sanctioning bodies, look at, Melissa mentioned it before. Look what they're doing with Fury. It will be, if he decides to continue fighting, it will be over a year. So he last fought in December 2022. It will then be over a year in 2024 before he fights a real boxer. And yet the WB, let alone a top contender for his WBC belt, and the WBC is just content to let this nonsense go on. They ordered Wilder and Ruiz to have a mandatory, and they were all jockeying over the money, and it never took place. So the WBC could have ordered a purse bid and said, if you don't go for that, you go down in the rankings. It didn't happen, and just dragged on and dragged on and dragged on when Fury wasn't fighting and Wilder wasn't fighting and Ruiz wasn't fighting. So what did they do? They came out with new rankings, and now Joshua and Wilder is the number 1 and Joshua is the number 2, supposedly, but their mandatory seems to be held up because they were relying on the money from Skill Challenge Entertainment, and that money probably is not forthcoming. Something went on, and the story will be written at some point when we know the people with Skill Challenge Entertainment became a promotional company, Skill Challenge Promotions, and decided to sign Alexander Usyk to their ranks. And I think that messed up a lot of plans. Rather than being a sort of event coordinator, now you had the General Entertainment Authority come in, and you haven't heard very much from Skill Challenge Promotions in months. They haven't put stuff on their social media. You just really haven't had press releases. You haven't had any information. And now Eddie Hearn is saying that they're moving on, it looks like, from putting Joshua versus Wilder in Saudi Arabia, and they're starting to look for other venues, London, Madison Square Garden, Vegas, some other place. but they're probably not going to get the money that they would have gotten had it been in Saudi Arabia, which is basically overpaying because they're building up their tourism business. So that fight still may not happen. And you may have Joshua continuing just to fight journeymen and lower level fighters, like Hellenius and Jermaine Franklin and people like that. And Wilder's sitting around doing who knows what, and who knows where he's going to get his money, since PBC seems to be very slowly dissipating as an organization. So it's all this is up in the air when these are obvious, these fights that should be made. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to be a boxing expert to know that people want Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk. They want Joshua and Wilder. They want fights like that to take place. But it's not happening. And that's one reason people are turning to these clown fights. You get your boxing fix. Because again, as I said, at least these people are fighting as bad as their fights are. And unless the media is telling people how bad these fights are, a lot of people are buying it.
Well, maybe they ran out of Daniel Kinahan MTK global money.
Well, that's another story that's quite interesting, being that in Saudi Arabia, the commission that they call using is the Middle Eastern Professional Boxing Commission, which is based in Dubai. So it's quite interesting see what relationship there is there.
Right. Well, look, folks, I don't see the heavyweight division getting any better anytime soon, because these guys are sitting on the sideline instead of fighting each other. But all we can do is bitch about it on Twitter or Threads or your Patreon page, Eddie.
Yeah, and I just signed up for Blue Sky, but I'm going to see how that goes.
Oh, shit. Well, look, you guys want to cover anything else before we cut out?
I got one more thing I got to quickly talk about, since we've been talking over the years about what's going on in the Olympics. And the IOC supposedly came up with this plan that they would allow athletes from Russia and from Belarus to compete, but only if they're not in the military or security services or not openly supporters of Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine. And that, of course, is just turning out to be a complete farce.
Yeah. Because
the World Wrestling Championships are going on as we speak in Serbia, and UWW, the Olympic Wrestling Federation, they disallowed some wrestlers from Russia, but 3 of the ones that they did allow were all Tokyo gold medalists. Abdurrashid Sadulayev, considered by most people the best wrestler in the world, period, pound for pound, and Sidikov and Uguev. And all 3 of these guys were recently at a pro-war rally in Russia. The pictures of this on social media that some of our friends from Ukraine have put up, the UKR Sport Base that's on Twitter. And Sadulayev also early this year was one of the athletes that Ukraine sanctioned for being pro-war. There were a number of athletes in many different sports, and it looks like UWW is very selective in terms of who they keep out. They'll keep out athletes that have really not much of a chance of winning any medals or making much of a difference for Russia. But the 3 guys that are returning Olympic gold medalists, and this is a qualifying event for the 2024 Olympics, they're letting these wrestlers compete, even though they're calling them neutrals. So this is just an absolute charade. This has been reported in the media, and UWW, of course, has been silent about it. And so this is again an absolute disgrace that's going on. So here we go again, same crap.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that on another show because I really want to know what the where we're going. Is boxing going to make it through the next couple Olympic games?
In October, we'll find out more when the IOC has their session about a month, in about 4 weeks in India. But apparently boxing, it may be safe, but who's going to run the boxing for LA in 2028? And will it be definitely on the program? We'll know more in about a month.
Right on, right on, right on. Well, look, this has been a good show today, folks. Melissa, you have anything else you want to cover? Women's boxing or in boxing?
No, just, keep on supporting women. That's all I
That's
can
right.
say. You can always go on BoxRec to find which fights are going on, or DAZN and ESPN have pretty good websites that list upcoming boxing events. You got to dig through, but if you're on social media, especially Instagram, there's a lot of women boxers who, and you can find Women's Fight News does a very good job of reporting upcoming fights and noting who the winners are on social media. So they're worth following for that kind of information.
Right on. Tell the people where they can find you.
Sure, on Twitter or whatever the heck that thing is called, although I got to tell you,
Big
I'm on
X.
less and less, except
right
when I'm live tweeting boxing events, which I did a couple of nights ago. What I can say is I'm at Girl Boxing Now on whatever that, on the Bird app. That's no longer a Bird app. I won't call it what it is.
I call it the Bird shit app.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm on there just for boxing purposes. I don't do as much, and I don't see as many people that I used to hang with. Instagram, of course, at Girl Boxing Now. I'm trying Threads. It's not so successful. Spoutable, not so successful. I really have not found a new home. But at Girl Boxing Now is where is always my moniker on those social media platforms. And website girlboxing.org. And that's about it.
And get her book. You got to get her book. Go to Amazon.
A History of Women's Boxing.
History of Women's Boxing. That's right.
I am now editing. I've written the manuscript for The Promise of Women's Boxing. I'm now in the editing stage. I got to get it out of my house out of my lap by next weekend.
You
that
will.
Is my goal.
You will.
The editing. And then get it over to Roman and Littlefield, who are the publishers and are really being very patient. But I'm sneaking things in, like the 3-minute fight approval, which came after I had finished writing, but I'm sneaking in a couple of paragraphs because that is so important.
And it's significant. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Great job today. Thank you, Melissa. All right, Eddie, Mr. Eddie Goldman, the Conscious of Combat Sports. Tell the people where they can find you, please.
Well, on social media, I'm still on Shitter,
I like that really, better.
These other ones, I mean, I'm on a whole bunch of these other ones. I just got an invite for a Blue Sky a couple of days ago, but there doesn't seem to be any interest in boxing, and it's kind of quiet because there are only a relatively small number of people on that, and I'm still doing a lot on my Patreon page, so subscribe to that for independent journalism, because you're not going to find too many people that want to pay for the truth about boxing. They just want planted stories and idiocy and propaganda to go on. So that's patreon.com/Eddie Goldman. And then social media is generally at NHB News, and my website, eddiegoldman.com. And make sure, particularly as the weather starts to get cooler in this part of the world, wear your masks. You have new variants of COVID. It's starting to come back, and keep up to date. There's a new vaccine that's coming for one of the newer variants, but get up to date on all these different vaccines for COVID and flu and all this other stuff. And don't listen to the various eugenicists and fascists like DeClantis of Florida and these others that don't want you to take the vaccine. It's a way of culling the population of elderly people and people with illnesses and compromised immune systems. That's what that's really about. So like we say in boxing, protect yourself at all times.
That's
In
right.
and out of the ring. So
That's right.
if you see me, chances are I'll have a mask on.
That's right. Well, look, folks, thank you guys for tuning in. I am your fight goddess. You can find me on the shitter at Angry Afro Radio and on IG at Fight Goddess One, on Threads at Fight Goddess One. And before you break away from us, please go and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment below. Let us know if you like the show or not. We'll be trying to give you another show next week. We got to get consistent over here, folks. But until then, thank you for tuning in. Peace, love, and push-ups. Boom.